creative scrapbookers, it's Kim here with another technique taster, and I'm going to share with you today a simple technique for doing some watercoloring. And we're going to make this adorable little card. Some of the products we are going to use are ReInkers Distress Watercolor Cardstock. I love this because it's rough on one side, smooth on the other. To use some Scrapbook Adhesives tape runners, Distressed Oxide, Hickory Smoke, and the Hickory Smoke glazing, as well as some Distress ink refills. I'm using some Zebra ClickART pens. And this adorable stamp is the Impression Obsession rubber mounted stamp that I adore. One of the first things we'll be doing is cutting down our watercolor cardstock to a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square. So I previously stamped this image onto my acetate, and what this does is it allows me to see where I want my stamp placed underneath. So this acts as a guide. So if you have a positioner, just tape on a piece of acetate, and it's like an extra bang for your buck with this tool. Once I know where I want that placed, I'll just lift and get this out of the way. The nice thing about the Distress Oxide, especially on the watercolor paper, is it does stay wet for quite a long time. So we'll take the Embossing Glaze. I also have it in the Hickory Smoke. Then just use a brush for any extra bits of stray embossing glaze. I always clean up right afterwards because I have been known to bump things. And the whole idea about technique tasters is to learn different techniques. And here's a little tip that I use all the time when embossing. I'm using a 3M sticky roller that you would use for lint to clean up any extra embossing powder left behind. Take this, and off screen I will use my heat gun to set the embossing powder. Here we have our little dog image. He's embossed. He's so adorable. I can't even handle the cuteness. I'm using the lid off of a Holtz Tonic product, and I'm going to take my Distress inks and just put a drop. These little Kelly Creates brushes for the fine details. We're going to start by just adding some water. And you can tell I've got a little bit of color here from the last card that I made. That's okay, don't stress over that. Just add the water where you want the color, and the water will guide your paint where it should be. And you'll see this in just 1 second. See, if I just drop that little dab of paint in, it will go and play where I want it to. If you have too much pigment, which I feel I have a lot of pigment, just grab a piece of paper towel and dab it. The nice thing about watercolor is you can pull the color up. So if I'm like, oh, it's still too much color, add more water. And lift it. So we'll try this again on the body. So once we have our little dog painted, our next step is very simple. While we let this dry a little bit, we're going to stamp on a scrap piece of paper. And I am not concerned in the least where this falls. We're just going to cut along the outline, not worrying at all about the little hairs that stick out. We just want a general shape of the dog. And what we're going to do is this now creates a mask for our dog. Using Scrapbook Adhesives temporary adhesive, put a little bit on the back. We're going to pull out lots of water to make a good splatter. I like to tap my brush. Small brush gives a very fine splatter. And let's add some more over here in this honey color. You can see that I've got a really fine splatter there. I'll pull that off. And basically you have pretty much finished your card. I'm going to add a few more details. I'm going to pull out my zebra ClickART pens, and as well I'm just going to put one more little drop of Stress ink in Barn Door Red, and we're just going to paint in the detail of the heart nose and the heart. So the other thing I've done for these little details, I could have used an ink as well and a fine tip, but these are really fine. So I just go in with some markers and color in that little flower and leaf detail. And again, if I bring him closer, you can see the details of the flower, his nose and heart. So cute. One thing I've started doing is just doing some quote searches on the internet. And this one here is from hgdesigns.co. This is a free art. And I love when I print it out on a full page. They're nice sizes for scrapbooking and card making. For this card, I use Dare to Begin. So this one here, we can cut whichever one we want. Let's use this one. I like to use a tape runner. I did when I finished this card, simply I bordered it with some black. I made a 4x4 card base and adhered everything on with adhesive from 3M. You got this. I hope you enjoyed my little watercoloring technique, and you can look at some of your small individual stamps and see how cute they can be as a watercolor image. Thanks for checking in.